The second day of the BRICS summit was marked by a hiccup that gave a peek into what appears to be a very vulnerable side of the current Communist Party leader. Video shows Xi Jinping entering the venue when one of his aides tried to follow him but was stopped by security at the gate. The security guard practically pushed his interpreter out hard with very strong physical movements and then immediately closed the gate. After the gate was closed, Xi hesitated. His expression and movement seemed to be bewildered. It was obvious that Xi was very surprised and didn't expect this to happen, because later Xi turned back 3 times and even paused in his steps. He heard the noise behind him, he looked back and saw that the gate was closed and his interpreter didn't follow him, so he had to keep going. After walking for a while, he stopped again, waited in confusion for 3 or 4 seconds with a rather baffled look on his face, and then staggered forward. And then he looked back for a second time, obviously unsure of the situation. He waited for his followers to catch up with him. After he made sure no one else was coming, he continued his walk on the rest of the red carpet. Finally, Xi shook hands with the South African leader waiting at the end of the room and even glanced back again to see if anyone was following him after the handshake. In the end, he looked back 3 times during this short process. As he walked down the aisle, Xi Jinping's body wobbled. The expression on his face as he walked was laid bare for the world to see. In fact, the leaders were supposed to walk the red carpet alone to the cameras. In other videos, other leaders were seen to have entered without entourage members. At the other end of the red carpet was the organizer, the president of South Africa, waiting to welcome them. But Xi Jinping's aides tried to barge in, creating an awkward scene. Perhaps this wasn't a big deal in the West, but under the CCP system, it's considered serious, as diplomacy is never a small matter. The day before this incident, on August 22, 2023, Xi Jinping was oddly absent from a business forum in Johannesburg. On this occasion, even Russian President Vladimir Putin gave a speech via video despite being unable to attend in person due to an international arrest warrant for his invasion of Ukraine. The Chinese side, however, had the Minister of Commerce deliver a stern speech in the name of Xi Jinping, denouncing American hegemony. It was later discovered that Xi was in another city in the south, Pretoria, on a state visit that day. It appears that it was because Xi's state visit conflicted with the BRICS Business Forum, resulting in Xi missing the opportunity to speak in front of world leaders. Interestingly, it was reported in the Chinese news as Xi Jinping delivering the speech at the closing ceremony of the BRICS Business Forum. What does this red carpet mishap, coupled with the absence of the party leader from the Business Forum, suggest? Perhaps in the West there isn't much more to it, but the combination of these 2 accidents can be considered a serious diplomatic incident to the CCP, because it has always emphasized that diplomacy is not a trivial matter. It portrays a great power leader's demeanor, therefore a top priority in their diplomatic work. It seems unbelievable that such low-level errors in the scheduling of trips and meetings happen during Xi Jinping's valued trips. It suggests that the CCP's diplomatic system is in chaos and ineffective. Perhaps Xi Jinping was missing his former foreign minister Qin Gang. Qin Gang was very cautious and meticulous in his work and a close associate to Xi. He was ensnared in a sex scandal and has been missing since. A former Belarusian diplomat told Voice of America that he witnessed Qin Gang's efforts during preparations for Xi's visit to Belarus in 2015. Qin called in the middle of the night to ask this question.
What exactly step will Chairman Xi step when the music should be on? This was late night. I was sure that nobody really could answer that question.
Without a satisfactory answer, despite being late at night, Qin Gang went to the museum Xi was to visit the next day to count the steps and make sure nothing would go wrong. Qin's absence showed the world a flustered Xi Jinping, very much at odds with his previous image as a political strongman with an iron fist. Is Xi secretly panicking? In fact, since the end of July 2023, Xi has been on the run. In the midst of the flooding in northern China, where the victims are crying out for help, Xi Jinping hasn't shown up or made any statement. A former mainland media figure who fled the US tweeted that reservoirs around Beijing leaked at the end of July. Some areas of Baoding City in Hebei province were almost completely flooded, including the army stationed in Baoding, the 112th Brigade of the 82nd Army. The entire army was wiped out. This has caused the CCP leaders to be afraid of visiting the flooding site for fear of a military revolt. We haven't been able to verify this story's authenticity. Against the backdrop of a major flood, the meeting of the Standing Committee of the Politburo of the CCP on August 17, 2023, also attracted much attention from the public. However, there was no video of the meeting aired by state TV. Instead, it was shown in the text that Xi Jinping presided over the meeting and delivered an important speech. It wasn't until Xi Jinping arrived in South Africa on August 22nd to attend the BRICS summit that he finally showed up. However, at the BRICS meeting, we saw the image of a fragile and uneasy party leader. The unusual aspects of Xi's travels have attracted the close attention of the media in many countries. There is speculation that Xi is hiding because he is extremely worried about his security in incidents like assassination or a coup d'etat. Xi's unusual behavior is related to the many prophecies that have been made about him. What is this prophecy? We will talk about it at the end of the episode. Following his visit to South Africa, Xi Jinping and a group of senior CCP officials, including the foreign minister, the vice chairman of the military commission, and the minister of public security, didn't return to Zhongnanhai but flew straight to Shijiazhuang. At the meeting, stability was emphasized at least 8 times, which is considered to be a sign of renewed intensity of the internal struggle in Zhongnanhai. The CCP authorities are in a state of civil unrest amidst rising unemployment, factory closures, economic downturns, and man-made floods. Figures show that strikes and protests in China have risen sharply recently. China's Jihu website reported in July that according to the China Labor Bulletin, a non-profit organization, there has been a sharp rise in strikes and protests by workers in China this year, with 830 recorded in 2022 and 741 in the first half of this year. For the top brass of the CCP, an armed army is their biggest worry. Now let's take a look at the tanks heading toward Beijing. On August 26th, a video was posted online showing a large number of tanks and military vehicles on the railroads in the Chinese city of Shijiazhuang. The city is less than 300 kilometers from the capital, Beijing, raising concerns about the political situation in Beijing. Why is there a large number of tanks in transit so close to it? Some netizens analyze that the direction of transit of these tanks is not towards the south, i.e. towards Taiwan, but towards Beijing. What exactly happened? We don't have any more clues at this point. But what is certain is that the PLA, or the People's Liberation Army, is unstable. On August 29th, Beijing held an emergency military meeting in which the vice chairman of the Central Military Commission emphasized the need to mobilize the initiative and creativity of all levels of the military and the local community in order to purify the atmosphere of the industry. In line with the CCP's usual pattern of screaming for what's missing, these words are said to reflect the lack of initiative in the military and the lack of purity in the military culture. We previously reported that the rocket force, which is in charge of strategic and tactical nuclear missiles, has been implicated in an investigation. Some of those in the rocket force are already under secret interrogation. Hong Kong's South China Morning Post reported on July 28th, citing sources familiar with the matter, that the commander of the People's Liberation Army rocket force, its deputy commander, and its former deputy commander have been taken away by the CCP Central Military Commission's anti-corruption body. Also absent for several months is former Chinese Defense Minister Wei Fenghe. He served as the first commander of the rocket force after Xi's military reforms from 2015 to 2017, but he has been missing since March 2023. And of course, there's the former Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang, who has been missing all summer. Although Qin was a foreign minister and a state councillor, he was only a civilian official and less of a threat to Xi than the rocket force. The commander of the rocket force, Liu Chao, is a much bigger threat to Xi, whether due to corruption or a classified case involving his son. These two cases have become a major failure in Xi's efforts to cultivate his faction. On August 31st, a spokesman for China's defense ministry said that in the fight against corruption, any case will be investigated and any corruption will be punished, when asked by the media about the changes in personnel at the top of China's rocket force and the disappearance of Wei Fenghe for several months. The fight against corruption is always on the way, as long as there exists the environment and conditions for corruption to arise. The fight against corruption cannot be stopped for a moment, and the horn must be blown forever, insisting on investigating and punishing any cases of corruption, and resolutely winning the battle against corruption and the protracted war. It's to provide strong discipline and work culture for the realization of the 100-year anniversary goal of the Army. This is the first time China's Ministry of National Defense has publicly mentioned an investigation into corruption among the military's top leadership after a major reshuffle of the rocket force's leadership. However, when our team conducted a verification, we found that the above paragraph from the press conference had been deleted from the website of the Chinese Ministry of National Defense. Perhaps it's because information about military unrest is too sensitive for the Chinese public to know. Now, another unexpected thing happened. Xi Jinping was supposed to attend the G20 summit in New Delhi, India on September 9th to 10th. However, Reuters recently quoted several sources as saying that Xi may not attend the summit in India. Two Indian officials, one diplomat based in China and one official working for the government of another G20 country, said Premier Li Qiang is expected to attend the summit. If Xi is absent from the G20 summit, the immediate effect will be to leave an impression that the CCP is unwilling to communicate effectively with other countries or to reconcile with countries that already have tense relations. At a time when the CCP needs to ease tensions with the West in order to restart China's foreign trade and economy, Western heads of state, including the US, have been looking forward to a meeting between Xi and Biden at the G20 summit. This is why Xi's gesture is so puzzling to outsiders. In the past year, Xi has rarely traveled abroad. He visited Moscow in March and South Africa in August to attend the BRICS summit, but these two trips together lasted only 6 days. In other words, over the past year or so, Xi has disappeared from the public eye, both domestically and internationally. A closer look at his itinerary reveals that on his 2 trips out of Beijing to attend the China-Asia Summit and the BRICS Summit, he didn't use a special plane, changed his itinerary on the fly, and was accompanied by a large number of high-ranking state officials of his own camp. It all looks like a serious precautionary measure. Although the successive leaders of the CCP promoted atheism and communist theories to the public, according to the memoirs of many people, these leaders actually believed in mythical prophecies and ancient Chinese legends, and they were also keen on allowing the so-called gurus to predict their own destiny. For example, it has been said in China that when the CCP seized power in 1949, before entering Beijing, party leader Mao Zedong went to Wutai Mountain, a famous Buddhist mountain, to draw a fortune stick. After drawing lots, he set the date of September 9th for his visit to Beijing. In addition, Mao sent someone to visit an old Taoist priest at Baiyun Temple in Beijing. The old priest gave the visitor a note with the number 8341 written on it. Since then, Mao Zedong's Central Security Corps was labeled as 8341. Mao lived to be 83 years old and was in power for 41 years. Mao's public image was that he had no fear whatsoever. In reality, according to the recollections of many people close to him, a year before his death, Mao felt that he would not live much longer and cried all the time. One possibility for Xi's erratic behavior is that he is extremely worried about his own safety and is trying to hide from assassination and prevent a coup d'etat. Similarly, in China, prophecies about Xi Jinping have been circulating for a long time. As the party leader, it's almost impossible to say that Xi has never heard of such prophecies. Tie Bantu, or the Iron Plate, is a book of prophecies that has been secretly circulating in folklore. The reason why it's called the Iron Plate is because all the prophecies in the book are like nails on an iron plate, solid and precise. In the last picture of the book, there are 5 birds, 4 with black feathers, which have already flown over the mountain pass, while the 5th bird with white feathers has crashed on the halfway point of the mountain on the right side, in a downward trend. The picture is accompanied by a sentence saying, "The bird with white feathers crashed on this side of the mountain and lost its life." It's widely accepted that the 5 birds represent the 5 party leaders of the CCP. The 4 black birds represent Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin, and Hu Jintao, while the 5th white bird represents Xi Jinping. Coincidentally, the way the character Xi is written in its traditional form is made of a feather representing a bird on top of the character white. Two important messages arise from deciphering the painting. First, the white feathered bird is the last emperor of the Red Dynasty, which means that the CCP will die at the hands of Xi. And second, the white feathered bird will end up being a martyr for the CCP. Xi is currently in his third term in office. The CCP is both internally and externally in a mess. Diplomacy is almost at a dead end, and the consequences of the 3 years of extreme zero-COVID policy are gradually surfacing. At present, the epidemic is rolling through China again. Unemployment is sweeping across China, and the economy is falling off a cliff. Frequent floods and earthquakes have caused a lot of anger and resentment. For the CCP, good news is almost non-existent, while bad news varies from day to day. Some overseas Chinese-language media citing anonymous sources reported that Xi himself had long been aware of many of the prophecies about him and was alarmed by them. So, is there any way for Xi to break the situation? The white bird and the 4 black birds in the picture of the iron plate suggests that Xi Jinping isn't the same as the previous 4 party leaders. On February 8, 2023, former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's memoirs were published. In it, Abe makes special mention of a little-known side of Xi Jinping that he knew, sparking widespread international attention. Abe recalled that Xi once said that if he had been born in the US, he wouldn't have joined the Communist Party of the US, but would have joined the Democratic or Republican Party. It was quite a surprise to the outside world. According to Abe, Xi didn't join the CCP because of its ideological creed, but joined it in order to wield political power. In other words, Xi doesn't believe in the Communist Party, but is only using it to keep his power. Therefore, Abe considers Xi to be a strong realist. Unlike his predecessors, Xi is the only CCP leader who has publicly expressed his belief in the existence of the divine. WikiLeaks has published a classified document revealing that Xi displayed a fascination with Buddhism, martial arts, Qigong, and other mystical powers said to aid health, as well as with Buddhist sacred sites such as Wu Tai Mountain. Don't look at you are making a lot of noise today. Beware of what's coming in the future. It's all gonna tally up and be dealt with. Don't do this kind of thing. There is the divine 3 feet above your head. Have a sense of reverence. Xi believes that evil will be punished and that there is a divine. The CCP is now a ship that the world has abandoned. Whether Xi Jinping jumps off the ship or accompanies it to its sinking depends on his choice.